let's get started on today's class. Before I do, let's take a quick gander at my website, so istebrak.com. If you want to submit stuff for critique, so you see me critiquing art, you wonder how to get your stuff on my videos, you just go to istebrak.com and click on the Reddit icon. That will take you to our Reddit page. Join it and start submitting your work. We accept all kinds of work. No anime, pure anime, no fan art that is not attempted as original or of some kind, maybe rendered. It's not no reproduction of like a simple Mario sketch or some shit like that. No, thank you. Save that for Instagram. So you want to get better at your art, do some studies, attempt some rendering, think about light on form. That stuff is always welcome here. 14-day challengers can submit their daily challenges, daily challenge submissions here. If you're not getting critiques, it's because you're not giving critique. And if you're too shy, get out of your shell and type up a paragraph. Think what you mean. Everyone has thoughts. Everyone has thoughts, or else you're a potato. So you're not a potato. You can turn on a computer and submit stuff and draw. So you have thoughts. You have opinions. Don't be too shy. You know what to write. You know, like I just see a lot of shyness when it comes to talking to people or writing things down. It's just a paragraph. It's just writing. It's just whatever you're thinking, put it in a sentence. Doesn't have to be eloquent. It's just a quick sentence critique, some of your thoughts. If you're not quote unquote good enough to critique that person, you're wrong. Because a person who's never drawn can still see errors in a face. They can still see something that looks off. Even a non-artist can critique an artist. So there's no elitism here. Someone who with less skill can still help you see something that you haven't seen. How many times in critique hour did someone mention something that I completely didn't notice? And I'm Istebrak, the Istebrak. So I'm joking. So you guys can critique each other and help each other complete your challenges. Sorry, I'm a little bit short of breath. I will be short of breath for a while. Finally got hold of a corona test, so I'll be able to tell once and for all whether or not I have or had coronavirus. I most likely did have it. I don't know if the test will come back as presently positive. If it is, I'm going to be um, annoyed a lot by my local health officials. This is something I'm really stressing out about. Really, really, really stressing out about. But it got to the point where I needed medication. So it might just be that I just take a mental health break soon. And you won't see me. It's just really unpredictable this time. I could very well not do critique hour for another 2 weeks. I really don't know, but I'm going to try my best to do at least one a week, and still at least give you guys one video, one meetup during this horrible, horrible time that doesn't seem to have an end. All right, let's get on to critique hour. By the way, if you want to send your support to our channel, you can do so through Patreon. You can just join as a dollar patron. It still adds up. You may not feel like you're doing a difference, but you definitely are. It still adds up. And you don't have to join as a $20 patron in order to give back or support. If everybody on Reddit, and Reddit has 2,500 members, join, we really wouldn't need to worry about anything ever again. So if you want to support my channel, you can just join as a dollar. If you learn something from today's class or other classes, that's just $12 a year. And again, it really does add up. If you feel like you're the one person who will make a difference, then everybody thinks that, and then no one joins as a dollar watcher. So you will make a difference. It's exactly what you're doing when you join, and it's if you want to. There's no pressure. It's just for those who feel like they want to give back. Let's talk about this painting. So you in the post in the original post. Let me just grab some water, and I'll start. 1 second. Okay. Um, so in the original post, the artist said that they want to do the thing that will make this painting pop. They want to do the next thing that will take it to the next level. What's holding it back? There's a lot holding this painting back. There's anatomy, there's composition, there's lighting. And then there's framing, well, which is also composition. So let's say this was a book cover. It's a really dysfunctional book cover because it's got too much space on the bottom and the top. Really, it's not a decent placement for a title because you're running in between black and white. And that's hard to frame font on because then you have to use double borders, which is absolutely ugly. And then you got way too much space down here, and unless the author is specifically or particularly narcissistic, they really wouldn't keep their name this big. It's really just you need the name and the title and the book cover, but it's kind of, it feels off. It feels imbalanced between title, picture, and then the name of the author. So, what I learned in my time making book covers is that you need to think about how it's going to be presented after the text has been added on. So framing is a problem only if we don't think about this as a book cover. If it's going to be a magic card, then even worse, because then you're just going to have to use a single picture, or maybe it's slightly wide depending on how the card is designed. I forget if magic cards have a perfect square tile or preview of the painting in the card, or I think it is a little bit wider. It's a wide angle. But let's do that first. Let's frame it. Let's prepare it as if it is going to be part of a book cover. But the change I'm about to add is also a change that will, sorry, I'm a little short of breath, is also a change that will help the lighting. So in the story, you're telling me this is a magical raven crow thing, and that it is in this like exposition gesture. It's showing off what it can do. So I'm going to remind you that if you're going to show off a magical quality, why would you drown that magical quality in a super bright daylight? Like why would you do that if you spent all this time telling us about the particular power of this magical raven? Why would you then go and disable that power by throwing a big drowning daylight? Then what was the point of having a character with glowing swords and glowing, it does not make sense. Okay? So when we darken with a blue darken layer, we've also considered that. So let me go backward, leaving only the eyes showing. So let me just get rid of that stuff that you're doing with the sword, the daggers. We've united the painting under one common color by using this darkened layer. So let me put it on normal so you can see exactly what color I used. That's it. Okay, and it was on 77 opacity. And then it was on darken. So we've instantly cleaned this up. It's dark enough that you can put a nice light title up here for it to make sense in. And we're going to shift the entire painting down so that you don't have all that excess. So Control C, Control V, lowering him down all the way, and you'll see how cool it looks to have all that empty space at the top. There we go, now it's working. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you so much. Save the sanity of your teacher just now. So you'll see how cool this framing is. But remember, I'm not just framing. Ideally, I could have put this entire guy towards the horizontal canvas, kind of occupying one end of the canvas and an open space. But because I'm making a lot of my framing decisions on the fact that this will be used as a book cover, which I don't really talk about enough in our critique hours, that's why I made this choice as a book cover. Okay, so imagine the title, imagine the author space, which is nice and modest, and then you have all this breathing room. Now look at how much space we have to work with. We have so much breathing room. We have nice scale happening, and we can follow this beautiful, almost acrobatic gesture of his cape. We can really follow it and create this cool break in the canvas. Okay, we've darkened the environment so that it makes sense. Let's talk about gesture. So we don't have enough space really to show off his entire gesture, which he feels constricted in the canvas, so I might shrink him. But before I do, let me draw some diagrams. So this is where the hips are, right? So this is basically where the torso is, meaning that if this is the hip, this is the other hip, this is shoulder, other shoulder. He's kind of doing a twist. So then this would leave this as the spine. The spine tells us where the neck is. The neck is a continuation of the spine. Write that back to me. So when you see someone doing this, all right, and this is their torso, and this is their head, their neck has been cracked. That's not how the human body works. The human body, good posture, is a perfect S shape, and the neck is a continuation of that, leaning forward. So technically the neck leans forward, and the head kind of sits on the neck in this straight way, but also part of the lean forward. Okay, so that's like perfect athletic posture right there. All right, so if he's doing this forward bend, a forward bend would have even more of a natural forward bend, continued forward bend in the neck and the head. So that means that what you have here is you have just this really weird placement for where the neck is and where the head is. So to fix this entire thing, we're just going to catch the whole head and shift it down. And that'll really make the gesture read as natural, as more comfortable a gesture. Sorry about that rattling here in the back. I'm still not in a very comfortable placement with my table. So my table right now is just a piece of wood against another piece of wood, and that's friction. I haven't really found a way to cushion the friction from happening, so that's the jitter you hear in the background. Okay, so I don't really like the extra plumage, so I'm going to cover that up just because it's going to hide the neck anyway. Alright, so see that stretch now? The spine, the neck has followed the spine. Feels like more of a real lunge than a bad one. What's that done to the canvas though? It's completely filled in the canvas. And I made this adjustment without giving a damn about the canvas. I will accommodate to the gesture that this part of the gesture is more important than his feet. Why should they have more space than the head, which actually needs the space? Okay. So lots of mistakes here and there, but not irreparable things, not things that are difficult to fix, that you'd have to start all over again. It's mostly about thinking, where your painting is going to go, how it's going to be used, what story you're telling, logical questions. If I'm going to be spending this much time making him feel like a magical thing, and his whole thing is about having glowing swords, why, if I'm painting an exposition painting, an illustration to show off what he does, would I stage him in the middle of the day? It's just kind of ridiculous, kind of funny, Lately in horror movies though, they've been exploring that middle of the day feel. When you feel the most safe, that is when you're the least safe. But we feel safe in the middle of the day. It's kind of a bad setting for things to happen. And then if a good filmmaker comes in and uses it right, then of course it makes sense and it works. But as a painting, you don't have the advantage of a moving film to explain why this battle happened in the middle of the day out of nowhere. See what I'm saying? I'm just a crazy teacher talking to myself right now. So I'm going to use Dodge Tool on highlights with Protect Tones on, just to start playing with the elements here. And I'm not going to allow these magical swords to get too bright. Just enough that they complete the story, but not so much that they destroy the canvas. And I still want some depth, so that flame is further off in the distance than this one. And then this exact value is what I'm going to use to paint his pants. And I really don't know why you have all these random folds in his pants. He just stretched. He's doing a lunge. Why are there so many loose hanging wrinkles in his pants? He's doing a lunge. His pants are about to rip. So show that. Show that, there's a I'm not sure if I want to. Yeah, let's just do that. Show that the fabric has been extended. And it's just a simple underside of his legs. I mean, it's not. If he's even wearing, like, I can't tell if he's wearing pants. I don't know if that's pants or that's him, because you kind of had some fabric looking stuff. I'm just gonna treat it as some pants. He's wearing clothes everywhere else. And it's all about creating quick, fast, straight lines to continue that high energy, open gesture. I'm not going to do any more flowing circular wrinkles here, because that's destroyed that stream of gesture moving in one direction to express the kinetic energy. So sorry if I'm scatterbrained today. It's just part of what I'm going through right now medically. It's really, really, really tired and dizzy all the time. Okay. And it's just very, very simple rim light all around here as well. Just wherever there's feathers popping out, catching some of the light that's beneath them. Nothing too intensive, just anything to help along the light. No crazy contrast or rim light. Same thing down here. I'm just going to get a soft brush. Okay, so you see, with my soft brush, I've decided how much light I want on the lower part of that cape. And then with my eraser, I'm going to make sure I bring in my edges accordingly. So it's just the lower part of that. And bringing in some gradient so I'm not accidentally leading the eyes of the viewer away from my painting. Alright. So you had this daylight come in. I don't know if I miss it. I don't think I miss it. But if you miss it, you can bring it back. But only on the bird. Don't bring it back into the background. Maybe there is some daylight nearby and it's not this this super drowning light. It's just enough that it's helped the photographer who filmed this or staged this to just show a little bit more form of what's been drowned out. Just a little bit to help along but I don't miss it. Okay, if you have to have it, but it's no matter how you bring in another light, it will still contest these blues. So did we really need it? I feel like you can bring more intrigue into the painting with some saturation. So let's say you feel like, okay, this is too dim this is too dim an illustration. I want more of something. I want more of it. Usually a beginner or a noob, for lack of a better term, no, it's a great term. We'll just end up doing what we all want to do. Yes, turn off protectones because who needs that? All right, so that's what a beginner would do, and it's too much. All right, and too many people do this. Even a fraction of this is too much. Like that's too much. So we want to be a little bit more normal with our placement so that we can always push back towards a believable light environment. It's not about indulgence, it's about balance, so that we have a cool, dim experience with this dark character who is dark. It's a raven. It's some sort of mysterious character that's like kind of like a rogue or an assassin. So you're assisting the character by delivering them in a dark environment. So what you can do is saturate first. Just with smudge brush, I mean just with sponge brush on Photoshop, saturation does what Dodge tool does, because Dodge tool saturates and illuminates. So why not we just keep the illuminates out of the picture for a second? Because we don't need all that much contrast, because we're trying to recreate this dim experience, like I said, this dim delivery. So let's just do one half of what Dodge tool does, Dodge tool, which is saturate. And saturate till your heart's content. We still are in the same dim environment if we're saturating. You can, I think this is too much saturation in my opinion, but I just want to show you what you can do. All right, and it's all still the same color. Sometimes saturate won't be able to quantify exactly what color we're coming from because there's so many ways a color can go, especially if it's a gray tone. But you have all of this to work with. For me, I feel like that's a bit too much. I would just do it on the hottest part of each spell. And then with color correction, I'm just going to catch everything up to the same color. So the eyes will get that blue as well. And then, again, only in the hottest spot will I up that contrast. Oh, it's the smallest amount. It's non-existent. It's just enough to explain that this is a magical element and it's a light source in and of itself. It's just the smallest little bit. A little bit is too much. Alright, and then there's the texture you used for the magic. I feel like magic is a little bit more like electricity, so either you sharpen it or you soften it. It's either electricity or fire, and you're kind of trying to do both. You never do both because it looks cheesy, cheap 90s kind of effect. Either it's electricity or fire. So if it's fire, it's more billowy, it trails, it's like a big magical spell, and then you have a continuous texture. If it's electricity, it's a lasso tool, unblended, and it's going to have a very defined trail. Just choose which one it is. It's either this type of edge or this type of texture so that you're making sense. Okay, so I think you were actually in a turquoise type of color range for the magic. I'm going to try to correct that. Was it? Is that right? Color. I don't think there's any color better than this, but that green also looks pretty cool. Looks pretty evil as well, where here he looks kind of good. He looks like a good guy because this is a good guy color, and green is more of a bad guy color, or that eerie swamp green. And then there's some other staging tools you can use to help the title along. So it kind of feels weird that we have one continuous non-color travel so far across the canvas. So we can just throw in a shadow coming from the top. That's too much. And that's just going to give us some kind of transition. And then we're going to do the bottom as well. And we can do it to help, again, further the movement of this character. We're going to frame where he's going. So the only area that ends up illuminated is this area right here. So this is the only path that we have that isn't darkened. So again, it feels like he's just fallen into that lunge and made the painting feel more active. So I'm going to just erase wherever this was dimmed. If the author's name needs a bit more dark around it, then you can dim that fire. Alright, so this is all just different ways of organizing your delivery, making it feel more cool. There are things you're doing that you could do better. I mean, this has all been about that, but when it comes to rendering, things that you could do better. For instance, the feathers looks more like fur, so try to actually bring in feather-like silhouette to some of the structure here in the plumage. And it's just a flat piece of paper. That's all a feather is. It's not magic. It's just flat. I'm just doing that first and then showing them again, removing that. So this is going to add more detail, it's going to add more intrigue. And the thing with feathers, the secret to feathers, you want to know what the secret is? Base tone feather color, but, shadow color under the feather. That's it, y'all. That's all it takes for feathers. Just throw a shadow. You don't have a, it's not the silhouette anymore. You want to make it look a little bit more realistic, then just only paint the shadow. So choose a couple of areas where you would want a feather. Instead of painting them, select the inverse. Go in. Keep your lasso on so you know where it is. And just paint the shadow of that color, of that feather. Alright. The feather could have just a touch of pigment to it, like, oops. So, select inverse brush tool. Okay, so it could have a touch of color to it, or it could have a touch of light right at the top of every feather. Alright, and that's it. That's just the secret to feathers. It's in the shadow of the feather, not painting the actual feather, because it's all pretty much the same color. So you see how every single little feather is lifted upward? So I'm locking that, and I'm just illuminating the top of kind of every little feather that lifts up. That's how you bring in that detail. Ta-da! So you guys overdo. This is what, the difference between a professional and a beginner. The beginner doesn't realize they need to do less work, not more work, to achieve more finesse. So I'm just going to clean up all of this fur that you got going on and just replace it with more basic silhouette. I mean, that was really bad. That was a bad lasso job. Let me do it again. But that's pretty much it. That's what I'm saying, is that it's less work. See, I'm lassoing so I don't hurt the other. I gotta just not be scared of that. Now, you know what? I'll get the shape out and then select inverse and clean it up. All right. I still just do not like this little dude. I don't know why. Select inverse. This one feather's a troublemaker. And just throw another little one to break the pattern. And then with that little one, he just gets a cast shadow. So just cast a shadow off the feathers, and you'll see you get way more cool rendition. The beak has kind of been cut off because I had to darken the environment, so I'm just gonna find that beak again. And the beak should have some indication of that nearby light source, so maybe some of the beak plus some cast shadow will have some blue on it, just something like that, something really basic. Again, you can do this everywhere else. Someone says, I have so many notes on painting feathers. I have never wanted to paint feathers. I have never intended on painting feathers. Now I feel like I have to paint feathers. Yeah. So you know how you pick this stuff up? Texture studies. I mean, this fabric right here on the cape, I could have done a better job. But really, I would just need to sit there and figure out what the cape is doing. If the cape even has a fold in it that will show to the light or not. Is it going to be an asymmetrical shape like that? I mean, that feels more fabric-ish to me than to anything else. Yeah, so I hope You have a good idea now of what to do. Let's mess around with some font, 'cause that's fun. So, okay. So let's do the Raven King. Love cheesy shit like that. Okay, so I'm just gonna find I feel like this is a nice. Oh, that's horrible. Um, I'd like Agency FB just because I use it for everything. But we can be here all day looking at this shit. Let's just try that. I know, I'm sorry. It looks way too Times New Roman, but we're just thinking about composition right now. So the color would be like a similar color to what we have. And the more basic, the better. The more simple you are with your fonts, the better. Istebrak. That's who wrote this. Yeah. I'm just gonna have that right in the middle. Alright, so we're putting very, very basic stuff. We have all this breathing space just up here. And you can do so much more with it. They usually hire someone else to do the font, so sometimes the is shrunken down on purpose just so the word you see as the viewer is Raven first. You see that first. Oh. Right, and so they're placed beside each other on purpose, and then you have the word king as big as both of them together. It's just about which word they want to emerge first. And then they can offset it here, place it up there, equal on either side where it's placed on the canvas. And then the author name somewhere down here, a bit smaller. So you're working with the canvas, you're working with the illustration. So this is where you have the most negative space up here. Alright. And then this is where you have that. And then you have to factor in, like I said, where the title is going to be when you are painting. So I always have these titles. I have to know the title when I'm working because then I can really mess around. So if I had more contrast, would I be losing out? Would I be missing out? A book is 100% judged by its cover, period, all the time. Okay? The book is never judged by its cover. Never judge a book by its cover. No, not when you're an illustrator who's trying to make ends meet, who's trying to feed his family of 5. Okay, so yes, a book is absolutely judged by its cover. Please remember that and do a good job of making sure that it's judged properly. A book is judged by its cover, but it's up to the artist how that book is going to be judged. That's why they spend so much money on hiring artists to paint their book covers for them, because the book will absolutely 100% be judged on the information provided. And then there's the fact that, there's a lot, you can show a lot less of the raven. You can do something like that, and that still looks great. We don't see all of him, and we just see enough that we're like, yo, what's going on? This is the page turner. And if we do that, we show less of him, we can do a lot more with the title this way. And we can seriously enlarge this part of the painting. Really just throw him off. Just more mystery. We're not really losing anything. It's no longer an illustration, it's a book cover, meaning it's a combination of the communication between the title, the author name, and the painting. As you can see, it's not just about the painting anymore. Okay? If you're a narcissist, you're going to put your name in the middle. Or you can put the title itself. I'm a narcissist, and I'm joking, I'm not. They can put the whole title right there. See? So the words and the illustration are merged together. Write that back to me. You have to know where your title is going to be for a successful book cover. All right? So let's take a look at this, y'all. Take a look at this. All right, so let me take a look at this as a book cover. So I would first, before doing that, I would like bring his hand as if the magic is happening a lot closer to the raven, and then move the whole thing down this way. Do you get what I'm saying? So his hands are up here, and then all of this is empty space. Let me do a better job of showing that. That's also a really cool alternative. Alright, so he's got his little magic spell happening on the bottom of the canvas and then the top of the canvas. It's like a really clean area where you could mess with the title a little bit more. Alright. A while back I wanted to do a book cover challenge type. I've done them already with my patrons. They're really, really cool. I have it showcased in my channel somewhere. And then you have a lot more mystery about what you're saying about this Raven King, you know, how under the radar he is, how sly he is, how invisible he is. Okay? But, you know, for this setup, for the one you intended on, you know, I would do something like that. And then I send the preview to my employer, and then they go crazy and they pay me $1,000. That's how you make the money. Okay? All right, so it's all about delivery. Convince that you have to believe in the story that you've been hired for. You really have to believe in it. You have to understand who you're painting. It's all staging, minimal rendering. Really, we didn't render all that much, but as a book cover, I critiqued it as a book cover, right? But let's go back to before it became a book cover, and just go back to your painting. As an illustration. So let's say if it was used as a magic card or something like that. So this was after proper, and this was the before. Oh no, this was not the before because my fucking Photoshop crashed. So give me a second to find the before on the Reddit. So, no. Because my original file was also edited. I'm not sure if it was a preview. Oh, there it is. No. File save as. Desktop saves. Okay, so this was the before. Too much space on the bottom. Too bright. And then after, you just needed a little bit of color control. And it does so much more for the character. You want the red to still be visible, just shift this over until it starts feeling like red, but don't adjust anything else. So just shift it over in its zone, meaning you're not messing with this and you're not messing with this because you can't make it leave its light environment zone. The only thing you did was shift slightly the hue you already had to red. Now he has a red cape, but you didn't interrupt your light environment. Okay? That's all color is. Color is really, really easy to wrap your head around. He did have more green, so my bad. For the magic spell, it was a little more green than that. So, any questions at all? Damn it, on top of landscapes and feather painting, now I'm designing book covers. Honestly, I just came here to see these things, learn how to paint basics. And faces in black and white. Now I'm all, now you're all inspired. That's good. This is good. The words are part of the illustration. You can't design a book cover without knowing where the title is going to be. Yeah. Magic card challenge. Yeah. Istebrak the Raven Queen. As a writer, I judge all of my writer friends by their covers. Talking about typography, I will go in the Portrait Studio logo. Our website has still very bad kerning. I read what you said, and I don't. I'm not there. I'm not a typographist, so I don't. If Issa wrote it, you know she'd have half the page author name on there. When does the audiobook come out? Soon. It'll be read by me. Um, Papyrus. Jester. Oh, you guys are giving me. Oh my God, Papyrus is the worst possible font to use. Um, I have the texture studies. Um, what's the command you use to hide the selection lines? Control H. Base tone, feather, shadow tone under the feather. Um, yeah, and the base tone can have a little bit of light on it, as if you remember, but just slightly at the top. It's just a slightly lifted feather. It doesn't do much. And you see how before it read as fur. And we're just trying to make it read as feathers, and that's it. That's all it is. It's simplicity, really, where all that finesse is. So lots of corrections, simple corrections, very, very simple, basic corrections, way more powerful mood to the environment. Looks like a professional did it, even though it's exactly your painting, only because we applied professional choices, which is light environment choices, fundamentally intact. And we just balanced everything out. We gave it a more simplified, universal color spectrum to reinforce that universal light environment. Okay, so I hope today's class was fun. I really almost didn't come to class today because I'm very, very sick. Um, but I just, I'm so stressed out about this whole coronavirus thing. I really hope my test comes back as negative. I'm freaking out. So I'm sorry if Thursday I don't have a class. It's this massive amount of stress. The last stretch of work on my house, for finishing the kitchen, which is like the heart of the house, and we don't really have a kitchen right now, so everyone feels a little bit like orphans, like we don't have a mom. It's weird. We just don't have a place to be, The kitchen's where everything is. Um, but it's nice that now we have a living room at least, somewhere to sit down. And everything's just happening at the same time. Everyone wants to complete their sessions with me because of quarantine. Everyone's at home. And yeah, it's really really stressful. So if you pray for me if you can. I really appreciate it. Thank you everyone for coming. If you guys want to submit your work, you don't know how to submit it, you want to be on my videos, you want your work critiqued by me and by others, go to istebrak.com and click on the Reddit icon. Join. Read the rules. Hopefully everything smooths down, everything calms down soon, and I will start hosting some challenges, maybe even a book cover challenge, maybe a cool environment challenge. I cannot wait for the challenges because there's writing involved, and I'm a writer at heart. So I just feel like we're not the community unless we're doing challenges. It's fun. Everyone gets so involved. And there's so many new members that have not joined any challenges, and we haven't done them. That's what we were known for back on Google Plus. We just had these amazing challenges, contests, polls. It was great. And I want to get back into that, and we will. I just really need to recover. I need to find some normal footing. It's been a crazy year, and I hope everything goes back to normal soon. It's all about these challenges. Can't wait to get back into it. I've been very, very late with all of the Patreon rewards just because I've been sick and I've just been at complete wit's end for about 2 months now, but I will make it up to you guys. I promise. There's no way that you guys get out of this without a complete makeup for all of the rewards. And it's just because I haven't been painting. I haven't done any personal work. But I've been trying to keep my promise to my patrons, which is they're my patrons so that I can keep doing Critique Hour, and I have been trying to do Critique Hour with all of my heart. I have been trying to make it, even if my throat is burning, even if my, like I have no air in my lungs and I'm completely short of breath. I'm still trying to make it, but I haven't done any after hours because I don't have any extra energy to expend on personal work. I wish I did. I've been sketching, which is nice, but I'd love to get back into my full illustrations. If you want to join as a patron, just as support as a watcher, you can support as $1. If you enjoyed this class, if you learned something from this class and you want to give back, you can join as a patron at istebrak.com. Thank you everyone for joining. Hopefully, God willing, I'll see you guys on Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Bye. Love you guys.